Okay, so welcome to Penn Engineering's online admission webinar. My name is Jackie Panto, and I am the Admissions Recruitment Manager here at Penn Engineering Online. I am so happy to see so many of you logging on and joining this webinar today. Today, we're so excited to present our brand new online program. It's the Masters of Science in Engineering in Data Science, otherwise known as the MSE-DS Online Program. So we're thrilled to give you tons of information about that program today and answer your questions and maybe ease some of the concerns that you have. We have a great webinar planned, and what I want to do is just kind of give you a little outline of how the webinar is going to work today, and to also talk about our great presenters. We have some great guest presenters today. So first part of the webinar, we have Dr. James G, and Dr. G is going to go over and he's the program director of the MSE-DS program. So I don't want to forget that. So he's a wealth of information about the program, and he's particularly going to focus on the structure of the program, answer questions about the program, and really talk about the curriculum. So you get a good feel of the courses that are involved in the program. Then after that, we have Olivia Roth. Olivia is the Director of Online Academic Programs. She's kind of an expert in the admissions process. So she's going to go through that process with you. She's going to talk about the application elements and kind of give you a good feel for like what a good application, a strong application looks like. So you'll be all set in that area. She'll also discuss deadlines and important dates. Once we go through all that, the last part of the webinar will be questions and answers. We want to make sure we get to all of your questions. We're hopefully going to save about 15 minutes or so at the end of the webinar for questions and answers. So just real quick before we dive in and start, I just want to talk just about a few housekeeping things. First of all, the webinar is being recorded, so you have no worries. If a week from now you think we said something, you're not sure what we said, you certainly can go back and watch the webinar. You can watch it as many times as you want. The second thing is I did mention Q&A. So the questions and answers, there's a function in Zoom where we want you to type your questions. So if you type those questions in the Q&A section, we have some people behind the scenes. We have our admissions team behind the scenes that's ready to answer those questions in that function. So I just want to give a shout out to Erin Graves and Coley Coleman. They're part of our team and they're behind the scenes helping us. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your help. So just make sure those questions go in that Q&A function, and then we'll also be answering them on screen at the end, like I mentioned. So I think we're all set. I am going to turn it over to Dr. G. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it. It's all yours. Thanks.
Well, good morning. I presume it's morning for everyone, and we don't actually have anyone dialing in from abroad. If there are, then good evening, or whatever the appropriate greeting should be right now. In any case, hello, I'm Jim G, and I'm very excited to be part of the team that's extending our training initiative in data science at Penn to the online space. My own background is in computer science. I trained actually here at Penn at the Computer Information Science Department, and subsequently joined the faculty at the medical school, where I work broadly in medical image computing. I hope to bring to bear some of my experience from creating and directing our flagship imaging science PhD training program at Penn, the HHMI NIBIB Interfaces Program in Biomedical Imaging and Informational Sciences. They'll be matriculating its 16th cohort this fall. A couple of fun facts. I was born and raised in Africa, Nigeria specifically. Did a stint in British boarding school for a few years before continuing my training in the States from high school onwards. So every now and then you'll hear me slip in some British colloquialism or pronounce things differently, and now you know why. All right, next slide, please. So I'm probably going to be preaching a little bit to the choir here, given that you're all attending this particular session. But data science, which I define as the art and practice of acquiring, organizing, analyzing, and understanding data toward domain-specific solutions, is integral to virtually every disciplinary and professional pursuit one can think of today. Fluency with data analysis methods has become essential for every scientist, researcher, engineer, analyst, or policymaker. At Penn, we've been at the forefront of training data scientists of the future. The introduction of our online program builds on both the excellence of the data science research and training at Penn and the strengths of Penn Engineering Online Learning. As a focus of the engineering school's most recent major fundraising campaign, Engineering School Dean Vijay Kumar notes that data science is a, quote, field that's central to the future of humanity, with data-driven approaches and methodology being used to drive decision-making and propel innovation in virtually every discipline and business. Our goal is to graduate students who are able to combine a background in scalable, robust, computational and statistical methods with an application domain in such areas as engineering, marketing, the social sciences, the biomedical sciences, communication, or the arts and humanities. And to make this happen, our students will develop skills transcending any specific application area and develop outcomes, including an ability to formulate and evaluate hypotheses, an understanding of statistical modeling and statistical tests, a strong background in supervised and unsupervised machine learning methods, an ability to load, clean, integrate, analyze, and visualize data, an ability to write data analysis code, both scripts and workflows that can scale to large data volumes and streaming data, and finally, an understanding of data ethics and data privacy issues and concerns, precedents, and best practices. Next slide, please. The profile for the MSE Data Science Online student is someone interested in solving problems and expected to be quantitatively and algorithmically minded with a demonstrated interest in data science. Your background may include an undergraduate degree in computer science, or a computer science minor, or a degree in a highly quantitative field with demonstrated work experience in software development. Next slide, please. So our curriculum is designed to target core data science learning objectives and allow for a wide and extensible set of depth areas to connect to a variety of application domains. In particular, we're interested in establishing a common baseline to ensure proficiency in probability and statistics, as well as at least one programming language, currently Python. The implementation of these principles is summarized here. Your 10 course units will comprise 4 core courses plus 4 technical electives, plus 2 open electives. In particular, the core curriculum includes CIS 5450, big data analytics. In the new era of big data, we're increasingly faced with the challenges of processing vast volumes of data. Given the limits of individual machines, increasingly the solution is to process the data in parallel on many machines. This course focuses on the fundamentals of scaling computation to handle common data analytics tasks. You'll learn about basic tasks in collecting, wrangling, and structuring data, programming models for performing certain kinds of computation in a scalable way across many compute nodes, common approaches to converting algorithms to such programming models, standard toolkits for data analysis consisting of a wide variety of primitives, and popular distributed frameworks for analytics tasks such as filtering, graph analysis, clustering, and classification. CIS 5500 concerns databases and information systems. Structured information is the lifeblood of commerce, government, and science today. This course provides an introduction to the broad field of information management systems, covering a range of topics relating to structured data, from data modeling to logical foundations and popular languages to systems implementations. ESE 5410, machine learning for data science. Well, machine learning has been essential to the success of many recent technologies, including autonomous vehicles, search engines, genomics, automated medical diagnosis, image recognition, and social network analysis, among many others. This course will introduce the fundamental concepts and algorithms that enable computers to learn from experience, with an emphasis on their practical application to real problems. This course will introduce supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Additionally, the course will discuss evaluation methodology and recent applications of machine learning, including large-scale learning for big data and network analysis. ESE 5420, Statistic for Data Science. In this course, students will learn a broad range of statistical and computational tools to analyze large data sets. This course provides a solid foundation of data science, statistics, and machine learning to make data-driven predictions via statistical modeling and inference. CIS 5150, Fundamentals of Linear Algebra and Optimization. Well, there are hardly any machine learning problems whose solutions don't make use of linear algebra. This course presents tools from linear algebra and basic optimization that are used to solve various machine learning and computer science problems. It places emphasis on linear regression, data compression, support vector machines, and more, which will provide a basis for further study in machine learning, computer vision, and data science. Both theoretical and algorithmic aspects will be discussed, and students will apply theory to real-world situations through programming projects. Now, among the 4 courses, students must take one of ESE 5420 or CIS 5150. However, my own recommendation is that you'll do well by actually taking all of the core courses that I just described, meaning using one of your technical electives to do so. Speaking of which, the technical and open electives are designed to support both acquisition of more in-depth knowledge of core subject matter and the development of specialized knowledge relevant to different focused application areas that broadly fall in the realm of data-centric programming or data analysis and applied, artificial intelligence. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to hand this over to Olivia now.
Thanks, Jim. So hello, everyone, and thanks again for joining us today. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the course experience is like in the MSE-DS Online program. So there are a lot of different types of online programs out there, which is why we like to take a little bit of time to explain what ours are like. If you're familiar at all with our MCIT Online program, the format is very similar. So essentially, the instructors will pre-record all of their lectures so that on day 1, you will have access to beautiful, high quality videos for the entire semester. Now, the assignments, though, are done in real time together as a cohort. So, for example, a lot of classes will have deadlines every week or every other week. And so, only the first assignment will be available in the beginning. Then once everybody finishes that assignment, the next one will be unlocked. So even though you can watch videos ahead of time, the assignments still stay in sync. But again, there is flexibility within that deadline. So let's say you have an assignment due in 2 weeks. Within those 2 weeks, obviously you can watch the videos whenever it works for your schedule. You can work on the assignment whenever it works for your schedule. And then there are live real-time sessions, but none of them are required. So for example, the instructor will typically have office hours each week that students can attend, or there might be teaching assistants doing recitation office hours. Ideally, they're kind of staggered, again, to accommodate different time zones. And if you're not allowed, and if you're not able to attend one of those sessions in real time, they're also recorded for everyone to benefit from, unless it's private office hours, of course. So that's why we like to talk about the flexibility, but it's flexible, but there also is a schedule, if that makes sense. So there's 3 semesters, fall, spring, and summer. Summer is optional. And again, within each deadline, there's flexibility, but the deadlines themselves are not super flexible because if you imagine, like, there's a lot of grading that needs to take place, solutions need to be released. Then again, the majority of our students are mid-career working professionals. And so if something does come up, we have extension requests that are available. And students can also take a leave of absence for a semester if they need to, up to 4 semesters. So communication methods, within an individual course, there's a discussion board website for each course. So that's where the teaching assistants are hanging out and the instructor to answer any course specific questions that students will have. In addition, we have a Slack workspace. If you're familiar with Slack, it's a chatting tool. and all of our students will have access to this workspace, which is for student to student interaction. And so it's more of a sort of informal space. You know, my staff and the academics team is kind of there to foster community and post announcements and things like that. But for the most part, it's for the students to connect with each other. And we've had a really amazing experience with, again, with our MSE-IT Online community in terms of folks just really realizing the benefit that they have of connecting with each other. And it helps people feel like they're not alone in this journey. And so that's what we're going to do with this program as well. I think we can move to the next slide. So this slide talks about all the pieces that need to be submitted with an application, as well as the relevant deadlines for spring 2023. So with the application, there's a couple of documents that you'll need to submit. One is a resume and another is a personal statement. There's also unofficial transcripts that you'll need to provide, a $90 application fee, and then letters of recommendation. So for the letters, we need a minimum of 2, and we often recommend that you solicit 3 just in case somebody has a conflict at the last minute and can't help you out. So this way, you'll definitely be covered if you have 3 folks who are going to be helping you out. And we don't consider an application to be truly complete until we've received those 2 letters. So even if you press submit, if we don't have the letters yet, it's not going to be complete. We need to receive them by the deadlines, either early or regular. The personal statement is a place to explain your interest in the program. And there's a lot I could say about best practices, but for today, I'll just focus on explaining how you will thrive in an online setting. So it helps to let us know if you have any previous online learning experience. You can mention that in your personal statement. You can definitely mention it on your resume. And then as well, you know, it's not easy to pursue a degree online, especially if you're working full-time. And so just to really show us that you've put in the thought in terms of how you will fit in the experience into your schedule. Maybe how many classes do you think you might take per semester, and just show us that you're familiar with the curriculum, that you really feel that this is the right fit for you because you've done your research. So those are some tips for the personal statement, I would say. Again, the transcripts should be unofficial, so they can be scanned copies of documents. But once you're admitted, then we will need official copies of all of your transcripts, including we need to make sure we can see the grades. So for transfer credits, those have to be, you may need a separate transcript for those as well. The GRE is optional. So, you know, we realize it's a big undertaking to take the GRE. It's definitely not required, but it can be helpful for your application. We only consider it if it's been taken within the last 5 years. And then if English is not your native language, then you would also need to submit official TOEFL scores. So TOEFL is a English proficiency exam. And those scores need to be valid within the last 2 years. It is possible to waive out of that requirement if you've received a degree from an institution where English is the primary language of instruction. So within our application portal, once you've submitted your application, you can go in and check on the status of your application. You can see if there's any documents that are still missing. If you know, our team goes through and double checks all the documents as well. If we find that something is not as it should be, we'll note that on the checklist and reach out to you as well. let's talk about the dates. So we have, it seems like a long time from now, but it's going to be here before you know it. For the early application deadline, August 2nd is the deadline. And again, we have to receive all of your materials by that date in order to be considered. We also have a scholarship that has the same deadline. So the scholarship application is actually embedded within our MSE-DS application. So if you're eligible and you're interested in that, it shows up as part of the application itself and you can submit it all together. And then the decisions are returned all on the same day. It's not rolling decisions. Those are all returned on September 15th. The scholarship decisions come shortly after that. And then we actually have kind of an orientation course that starts in December for those who are admitted, and classes start in January. So we also have a regular application deadline. Sometimes people ask us, what's the difference between the deadlines? Do I have a better chance of getting in one versus the other? And I would say how we describe it is there is a slight advantage for early, just in the sense of we're ready to admit people. But on the other hand, if you feel like your application isn't quite ready yet and you really think you could make it stronger by finishing an online course or something like that, it's totally fine to wait. Don't stress yourself out. But we do like to see those early applications coming in. And plus you get to find out sooner whether you got in or not. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say about that slide. Let me make sure I'm on time here. Okay, great. Let's talk about money. Okay, so this is the tuition, everybody's big question. How much does it cost? We're really proud of our affordable pricing for this degree. It costs $3,200 per course unit, and there are 10 course units required. So $32,000 is the total tuition cost. There is a note that it's subject to change and that could increase slightly while you're in the program. And then there are also fees per credit unit, $144 per course unit. Something that is unique about MSE-DS Online is that there is an open elective called the Data Practicum. And that course, again, it's optional. It's an optional elective. Folks who take that course actually are invited to come to campus for 1 week. And so there is an additional fee associated with that course. But again, it's totally optional. Here we have some language about the Dean's Master's Scholarship. We also have more information about it on our website. But essentially it is folks who are US citizens or US permanent residents are eligible. And the funding is received throughout the duration of the program. So that's pretty great. We're very excited about that as well. I skipped over an important sentence that says payment varies depending on how many courses a student enrolls in each semester. So what we're trying to say is that, day one, we're not asking you for $32,000 immediately. What you do is you pay per semester based on how many courses you take that semester. So if in the first semester you feel like, I'm going to play conservative, let's start with one course to see how it can kind of fit into my life, then you would pay just for that course in that semester towards the beginning of the semester. And then the next semester, let's say you're feeling, okay, I'm feeling more confident, I'm going to increase to 2 courses this semester. You would pay for 2 courses. So in terms of flexibility, that's another cool thing is that you really can kind of decide how many courses you want to take each semester based on what works for you. So it's not like there's tracks, like you have to be in the 2 course track for the whole time you're in the program or something like that. People really adjust based on what's going on in their lives at that time. And again, maybe you're feeling like, you know what, I have a lot of energy and time this summer. I'm going to knock out some summer classes. And then the next summer, you find you need a break, and all of that is totally fine. You don't even need to really notify anyone about what you're going to do each semester, other than if you want to take a leave, like I mentioned before. And I will say too that the curriculum that Dr. G described is pretty flexible as well. There's the core courses, but beyond that, if you want to take, more technical electives as your open electives, that's fine. If you want to take, I was going to say the opposite of that. I'm not sure if that makes sense. But anyways, we're really excited about that. And you can take them in the order that works for you, so long as you follow the prerequisites, which are all found on our website. Okay. We are so excited to talk about this. There may be some people who find that they're not quite ready for the MSE-DS in online yet, because like we said, that in order to qualify, you need an undergraduate degree in computer science or at least a minor. So if that's you, if you're watching this webinar and you're thinking like, wow, this is where I want to get someday, but I'm not quite there yet, you may be interested in our other flagship degree program, MSE-IT Online. It is designed for students who do not have a computer science background, but they do have quantitative and mathematical aptitude. So if you go online, you can find a ton of information about MSE-IT. You can send us an email, and Jackie there will help you out with any questions that we have. We have a very comprehensive, beautiful FAQ section on our website as well. But essentially, the program is also 10 course units or 10 courses. There are 6 core courses that are required and 4 electives. So the cool thing is, if you are wanting to move in the direction of data science, you can actually do a dual degree between the two. And so what that means is you can receive 2 degrees by taking 16 classes instead of 20. And you would still need to meet a certain criteria. We have all the details about that on our website, but you would need to maintain a 3.5 GPA in the MSE-IT online program in order to be eligible. You would then graduate from MSE-IT and move into MSE-DS for your last 6 courses. So you would then transfer over 4 approved electives from MSE-IT, so that you would have 2 transcripts in the end for your 2 different degrees. And whoever does this, the first people to do this, I will shake their hands, because it's going to be so exciting and impressive. And I think, and you'll also be really set up to go far, I think, in industry or academia. We don't have a lot of research in our program, but people can also supplement on their own if they want to. So I'm probably forgetting something about the dual degrees. I guess one other thing I could say is, if you're an MSE-IT online student and you're graduated and you've been out of school for a little while, you can still come back and do the dual degree option if you meet the qualifications, so long as it hasn't been too long, because we do have some limits on like transfer credits have to be within 5 years, just because the field changes so quickly and memories fade. But we're really proud to offer this option to our alumni as well for lifelong learning opportunities. With that, I will turn it back to you, Jackie, for our Q&A time. And I think we can take down the slides for now while we chat with the people.
Yeah, so I was noticing while everyone was talking, we do have some great questions. We have one that I think would probably be best for Dr. G. The question is, what is the difference between the MSE-DS and MSE-IT? So the difference between MSE-DS and Is this program, MSE-DS, more like MS Computer Science, since the program has data structure and algorithm?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have two programs. The MCIT, I assume that the attendee is referring to, and MSDSC. The MCIT is a computer science, a completely computer science focused program. The data science masters is something that somebody taking the MCIT program would be well equipped to then augment their computer science training with additional data science centric training. One doesn't replace the other. The MCIT program is really designed to provide you with computer science background. And so therefore you can bring your computer science training to a variety of different fields, not necessarily data science, but it could be in all of the other realms for which computing is relevant and critical. Data science is I would call a specialization of say a core area of computer science, or a specialization of a core area of statistical sciences. And so there is obviously overlap in terms of many of the core concepts, but they are different specializations. So somebody trained as a data scientist would not say fulfill, such, you couldn't do hardware design and things like that. And similar to somebody trained as a computer science may not have actually the appropriate statistical background to be able to do a lot of the analytics type of functionality that many of our data scientists do. I hope that helps clarify a bit. Olivia, do you want to mention any other differentiators between the two programs?
I guess, and apologies if this is like too similar to what you just said, but one way to think about it is that MCIT Online is kind of the prerequisite for MSE-DS. So it lays the foundation so that somebody is really understands all the fundamentals of computer science, which someone, you would need that in order to go into the more complex, more sort of, specialized topics in data science that really help you take the next step toward, data engineer. So yeah, the MSE-DS degree is very much an engineering degree as well, but it's more advanced, I guess I'd say.
And this isn't the next question, but I saw this question on here, which is kind of like a follow-up. There was somebody saying, can we apply to both programs?
There's no rule saying you can't apply to both programs, but we also want to save you some money. So, it's probably worth chatting with one of our admissions counselors to help you find out which of the degrees is a better fit for you.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So kind of along those lines, question 2 that we have here, are engineering degrees, for example, civil, mechanical, electrical, not considered heavily quantitative degrees as the ones listed in the prerequisites, such as math, stats, and physics?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Olivia.
I was going to ask you what your thoughts are.
Oh yeah, no, I certainly, right. So we gave examples mainly as just to give applicants sort of like an idea of what we mean. Quantitative is obviously a very vague term. I think that probably one of the things that might be most practical in terms of helping guide you decide whether you have the appropriate background or not is to take a look at our curriculum. Look at the coursework. If you feel that you have adequate background so that you can take these classes and not be flailing and spending a lot of time, trying to catch up on background material as opposed to learning the material that you're being taught, then, that's a good litmus test. But certainly, these days, anyone with an engineering background is going to have a lot of computing training, and certainly, you as a professional, if you're working in an industry or elsewhere, all that experience counts as well. And we have to write something in terms of to guide you on paper. But as I'll just reiterate, take a look at the curriculum. Look at the prerequisites for the courses, and if you feel that they're manageable in your instance, then that's going to be the most important. And again, as already mentioned, don't hesitate to reach out. We would be happy to review your transcripts and to look at your experiences to help you decide whether you're a good fit or not.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter, we kind of say if there's a gray area where you feel you're kind of in between or you're totally not sure, just reach out to us. And like Dr. G said, we're happy to help you. No problem.
Yeah, and exactly. You can work backwards. So we had said if somebody has a computer science minor, which is more or less equivalent to the first 4 core courses in MCIT, then you would be qualified. So yeah, take a look at our MCIT page as well. Check out those first core courses and see how comfortable you feel. And if you've covered those topics, then you're in good shape. And I would say if you have an engineering background, you're doubly suited, because obviously that's extremely quantitative, and you're familiar with engineering in general.
Great. So I'm going to move on to the next question. I think this is going to be for you, Olivia. Once enrolled, can you audit courses you expect to take in later semesters?
No. So if you audit a course, you can't also take it for a grade later on. But you can audit a course once. In that case, you pay for the course, but you don't receive a grade.
Good. And then next question, what are the benefits of this program to someone that's local to Philly or surrounding areas?
Yeah, I can answer that. I would say it's relatively minimal, as this is an online program. It's designed to be accessible to folks living anywhere in the world. That being said, we do welcome folks to campus every now and then. In the fall, we try to have an in-person event so long as everyone feels that it's safe. And then in the spring, we invite our graduates to campus for commencement. So, if a person lives in Philly, you can come over to the Pen Card Center and get a bona fide pen card if you would like for all your student discounts. You're allowed to use the libraries, for example, which have some really beautiful spaces. And so those are 2 more concrete examples.
Great, absolutely. Then the next question, what type of professions would the MSE-DS Online Program prepare us for?
I'm going to let you take this one, Gigi.
All right. Let's see. As I hope to make the case of earlier during my presentation, I can't think of a field these days in which data doesn't play an important part in the profession, in industry, in the discipline. And of course, you don't have to be part of the organization that's involved with the data, but every organization collects and these days appreciates that the data specific to that organization is the new IP of that industry. And so if you're interested in that aspect of the organization's focus, then you would be perfectly positioned to to be a contributing member and to be a member of the team that that can generate sort of added value to your organization from this data. Probably the better way to answer this question is just sort of like what isn't relevant to data scientists today. That said, certainly there are many other components of an organization for which, yes, you'd be using the results of the data scientists from your enterprise in terms of the insights that they produce, the specific even plans that you pursue, but more concretely, I think at the end of the day, at every organization, at every enterprise, you have objectives, okay, that you want to meet. They can be profit-driven, they can be mission-inspired. In other words, you have goals and tasks, and to reach these, you have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy. You have to have some kind of a scheme that you will then implement, okay, and operationalize to be able to come up with the best plan. Meaning that the plan will hopefully give you the best chance of success, the best probability of meeting the goals and the aims of your organization. Hopefully that plan is informed in some way. And these days, it's well recognized now that the data that you have access to, and both in terms of how you analyze and, like I said, draw insights from it to create your strategy, but also in ways of how you collect that data in such a way that that data is useful for you, to your organization, both in terms of planning and in the implementation of these plans. I think that these have been recognized as being so critical these days that literally entirely new industries, not just existing industries, have emerged to fill in, to meet this demand. So I think the world's your oyster if you have the appropriate training, and these skills do translate from industry to industry. So I think that's something that's also extremely attractive. Much like basic training in computing and computer scientists allows you to work in different industries. Basic training in core data science fundamentals and skills and knowledge will also allow you to transfer from industry to industry as well. I hope that helps.
Well, I have a follow-up question for you. Can you think of position titles that graduates would seek besides data engineer or data scientist?
Yeah, I think that they are creating these new titles like data scientists and data engineers, but very frankly, there are lots of existing titles for which existing positions for which data science training now is becoming really important for those positions to fulfill, to fully fulfill their roles, at least in the contemporary sense, where they now have additional resources to which they have access and they need to leverage. So, if you're an analyst of any kind, whether it's policy, whether it's in finance, you're working with data, and you're being asked questions that you need to answer with data at hand. So any type of an analyst with contemporary data science training is just really going to benefit, because the sources of data that you're going to get these days are quite different than from, say, even 5-10 years ago. And having the tools and the skills to be able to manage the new way in which data is being collected and hopefully being integrated and analyzed is something that's going to benefit you. I mentioned your standard engineer these days is also pressed to be fluent in data analysis methods, because a lot of what an engineer does is reviewing data, and again, the sources of data these days are changing so rapidly that being familiar with the contemporary state of the science in data analysis is just going to serve you well regardless of what engineering field that you're in. Olivier, I can't think of literally any discipline or pursuit for which a data science training can be helpful if that's what you're interested in. So
yeah, maybe you could be a data artist. I don't know
You
if
could
that
be.
exists yet, but it should.
Absolutely.
Next question. What's the difference between the MSE-DS Online and the MSE in Data Science on Campus program? So basically, is there a difference between the online and the on-campus program?
Yeah, sure. Right. So the primary difference has to do with the fact that the beauty of coming to Penn, to the on-campus program, is that you not only have access to the curriculum that's available to you through the data science program, but you do have access to the entire ecosystem that we have here, the training and research ecosystem that we have here at Penn. It is, and that, by the way, to be fair, that is the difference between any online program and an analogous on-campus program. So this is not unique to Penn. Any fine institution would similarly offer sort of this on-campus amenities and resources that we can't fully offer online. And so one probably the biggest material difference, tangible difference to potential trainees is that your technical and open electives are much broader if you were to attend the on-campus program, simply because of the fact that our online training program here at Penn is not as expansive as the on-campus course offerings. We're just rate limited by sort of how much of our course catalog we can actually put online. So that's probably from a professional perspective, that's probably your biggest difference. But otherwise, I think it is the traditional difference between an online experience versus an on-campus experience.
I have a follow-up question for that. Would you say that the outcomes with each, the career outcomes are basically the same? I mean, obviously the online's a new program, so we don't have any hard facts or data, so to speak. But would you say, based on, say, like the MCIT, which online on campus, do you think the outcomes, and maybe Olivia, this is more for you too, I don't know, but do you think the outcomes would be the same then? I mean, I would think so.
I definitely think the outcomes will be the same. That's 100% what we're seeing with MCIT Online. And it makes sense because the courses that are offered online are the same. They have the same content and they're taught primarily by the same folks who are teaching on campus as well. So the delivery mechanism is different. Perhaps the choice in electives are different in terms of, exact one-to-one match. But, the quality is the same, and the diploma is not going to say online on it anywhere. So, I mean, it's a University of Pennsylvania graduate degree, and that carries a lot of weight to it. So we expect to see that. Another thing I'll say, just in terms, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of differences, if you go to the on-campus website, they have what's called different buckets of electives and or elective tracks, you could say. So The electives that we offer online right now match up to two of the buckets, the data-centric programming and the data analysis / artificial intelligence tracks. So those are the types of electives that we are currently offering.
Great. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. We have a question where we're slowly running out of time, but we have a question about letters of recommendation. I probably can answer this one. If somebody says, I graduated in 1998 with a BS in engineering and no longer have access to my teachers or my professors to get recommendations letters, is there an alternative option to this? So basically, yes, that's fine. We don't need recommendations from professors. But what you need to think about is you need good recommendations, people that know you well, that can describe your abilities, especially as they relate to this program and being successful in this program. So you could be your supervisors, maybe your direct supervisor, or perhaps a supervisor that you work with. That's, you're working with a project. Like Olivia is not my direct supervisor, but she knows my work and she sees the projects that I work on, and she could easily highly recommend me for a particular program.
Oh,
So
yes, highly recommend.
highly recommend me. So definitely it does not have to be professors. Professors are going to make more sense for people who are newly graduated and they've built a relationship with that professor. You certainly don't want a professor that, and Olivia describes this great, that just kind of knows you as just coming to class and getting your work done, but doesn't really know you and, can really describe those qualities that are going to make you a successful candidate. So definitely supervisors are great. Your current manager, again, if you're newly graduated, a professor is fine who knows you well. What you don't really want is a colleague or a friend. That's probably what you definitely don't want. So you want to really look for those supervisors. If somebody says I'm in business for myself, I really don't have a supervisor. Well, certainly your clients that you work with would also be able to talk about, those great abilities that you have to be successful for the program. So hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely. And just to double down on what Jackie just said, the admissions committee does not dock anyone if you don't have academic references. It's not like, a checklist of like, oh, I see they have one industry and one academic. It's truly, it's more important to have the quality, like Jackie was saying. So if it's all industry recommendations, that's 100% fine.
And I think we have time for just one more quick question. I'm looking here. There's one about the GRE is optional, but does it have a major impact on a student's admission? And does it impact your chances of receiving the Dean's Scholarship? So as far as admissions, people use the GRE, it's optional. Some people that feel like they really wanted to show their quantitative abilities, but to be honest, you have to have the quantitative skills for the MSE-DS program anyway, in terms of having a computer science background or a minor in computer science. So the GRE may not even necessarily, from an optional standpoint, be worth it, but most times we see applicants providing those scores if they're really trying to show off or to supplement their quantitative ability. It doesn't have any bearing on the scholarship. Really, the scholarship is based on questions. There's 2 questions. They're online, so which brings up another good point. If you want to kind of prepare those questions ahead of time, we recommend you do that. Do it in a separate document and then put it into the scholarship application, and then you'll be good to go. But basically, that scholarship decision is based on how you're answering those questions and describe yourself as it pertains to those questions. So the GRE really doesn't come into play there at all. Okay. So I think we're going to wrap it up. There's just one more quick slide. If we can go back to that, I just want to give you some information. I know we have given you a ton of information in a short amount of time. But if you do have questions, perhaps we didn't get to your question. I think we did a pretty good job at getting to mostly everything, but there's a couple of ways that you can now go back and find out more information or look to have some of these questions answered. Olivia had mentioned this early on. We have a wonderful facts database on our website. We put where you can find it here on this slide. has lots of great information. Actually, even answered a lot of the questions that you asked today. So, so that's a great thing. Also, I think we talked about private office hours, but we do have office hours every week. Right now, they are on Tuesdays and Fridays. As it gets closer to deadline, we add more days as needed. So there you can see where you'd find our office hours. They're typically with me, unless I'm not available, then anybody from the admissions team is happy to meet with you. But this is a way to really talk about some of the nitty-gritty questions that you might have in a private setting. And then lastly is you can email us at any time. I'm constantly manning the email myself, Erin, sometimes Coley, Olivia, whoever needs to. We're making sure that we're answering your emails, hopefully within 24 hours. So we try to do them as quick as possible. But you definitely want to email us with any questions that you have. We're happy to help you. And again, I can't stress how much our website has tons of great information. This webinar, again, will be recorded, so you'll be able to get to this webinar. But we have lots of great information on our website. So we thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we've answered those questions, addressed your concerns. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Dr. G. You guys did a great job. So, and thank you, Erin and Coley behind the scenes. So thanks so much. Definitely have a great day, and thank you.